I'm tired of saying I'm excited to talk to a guest. So maybe I'm going to say
Okay.
I'm thrilled to talk to our next guest, Warren Skeels.
I am very, very,
What's the word?
very
What's the word? Honored? Flabbergasted.
You know what it is? I think honored is the right word because this is the first type of guest like this that we've had.
Yeah.
And it, makes me feel slightly uncomfortable because I'm really out of my element. I'm obsessed with movies. I love going to the movies. This is pretty much a once a month.
Obsessed is a big word, like to the point of nerdiness. Do you have memorabilia on your wall? Do you
not
quote
that
lines
far.
to people?
I will quote lines.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I will quote lines. And to me, it's such a creative. I think the creative process is something that I actually am envious over. Like I always wanted to be part of that.
Yes.
And
Maybe he'll
worship
call us into the
people.
next meeting he goes to.
Maybe. Fingers
Okay.
crossed.
Yeah.
But you need to probably tone it down a little bit.
It's hard.
I know. But I really want to understand the process of making TV shows and making films come to life.
Yeah.
I want to hear how hard it is because when you see the end product, it seems so simple, but all of the hard work.
Right.
There is so much hard work that goes into it behind the scenes. So I'm really excited that we're showcasing somebody right here in Jacksonville that has done something.
And went to Douglas Anderson School of the Arts.
Yes, Douglas Anderson. So there's just, I'm happy we're highlighting a different type of individual. We're not talking to somebody who's, built their own, massive tech firm. This is a different take on innovation and creating a different type of company, which I still think is tech forward.
We should probably talk to him now.
I think we should.
Hey, Warren.
Hi, Warren.
Have you been here the whole time?
This has been the most fascinating conversation to just eavesdrop into, be a fly on the wall. It's great to be here. Thanks, Jen. Thank you, Arash.
Oh, thank you.
Great to see you again because it's been a minute, and
it feels like yesterday.
It does, and we were so I don't know if you know, we were so close to being business partners.
I know.
And
then you were like, see you later, Arash. This is not going to work.
No. I mean, it was to no fault of our own. There was a lot of extenuating circumstances, but I was telling Jen earlier that, I walked away from all of that with a strong affinity, for you and
same.
A high opinion of the energy that you brought and your intelligence level and.
I love this
idea.
Flattery. Can he come on next week?
Yeah, we're going to have to take this down a notch. He won't make it out the
door.
More,
Warren, more.
So, and then after today, then the next time I talk to somebody else, I can,
say that about Jen.
I can say just as much about Jen.
That's right. See?
Yeah.
I get some at the stage,
Yeah,
too.
of course you do.
But this is, honestly, what you guys are doing is really, I hate to use such a, cool term, but cool, that you really are, talking and, with Jacksonvillians, I guess, and kind of highlighting what, the kind of neat things that they're doing in innovation and such. And some of these other guys you're talking about sound pretty fabulous and fascinating.
They're not as good as you, Warren. Let's they're not as good. That's why you're here today. And we think we're on the cutting edge because no one else is doing podcasts. So we feel like.
No, you guys have
one of a kind.
No, seriously, you're onto something here. Like talking to audiences across the world.
Yeah.
Audio conversation, interviews.
No one does that.
This is something.
We should consider putting this on social media.
It's cutting edge.
Put this on
social media.
Yeah.
I know.
Ooh.
Could you imagine?
All right, enough about us. I think Warren's trying to deflect here.
It is Warren's
Who are
turn.
you, Warren?
Who am I? So who am I? I'm born and raised out in Neptune Beach, and I went
Still in Neptune?
No, I live in town now.
Okay.
But went to Douglas Anderson School of the Arts. I had the pleasure of actually going there when I had an 8th grade. So I got a full spectrum, 5 years, and kind of indoctrinated into the arts there in a theater program. They did not have a film program at the time.
They do now, though, right?
They do now. Yeah. And, I think, honestly, I'm glad I didn't go into a film program as an 8th, 9th, 10th grader because even when I've gone back and talked to the filmmakers there, I've just said, you have the hardest art form. It's not just because I'm a filmmaker now, by the way, but they have the hardest art form to try to engage with at such an early age. Because when you think about film, it's acting, right? It's theater, it's directing. There's a musicality to it. There's editing. There's choreography and staging and movement when you dance, and it's a visual art, right? Like a production design, art direction, cinematography, and lighting. So like tech theater. So it's sort of a combination of all the arts into a singular medium.
Yeah.
So I look at it and I just, when they're trying to do stuff, and work through their short films, I'm just like, look, just do what you can. Just do what you can. Just keep pushing forward, make it through, because what you're doing is actually really difficult, and it's probably harder than anything else everyone else is doing here.
Right.
So it's a difficult art form to kind of jump into. So went to Douglas Anderson as a theater major.
Yeah.
And then I continued. I pursued that. I left and moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And
why LA for filmmaking? What's the
what's the catch
what's
there?
the draw there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. I went there. I had opportunities in New York, Boston, Dallas, and Los Angeles, and ultimately I decided I wanted to be in LA because I wanted to go to the Mecca, right? I wanted to go to Hollywood and be in that world, go to school there, get a Bachelor of Fine Arts in acting, learn everything I can, and be in that city. So when I graduated,
when you went for acting, like that was that
yeah,
your
I went.
pursuit?
I did
Okay.
hard. I was going to act, right? And I had opportunities, and I did a movie of the week and a sitcom, and had an agent and talent manager, and but as I was learning there, something really positive about Douglas Anderson is I was in a top theater program in a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and there wasn't anything new theoretically that I was learning there that I hadn't already learned when I was at Douglas Anderson.
Oh,
Douglas
great.
Anderson has such a high level of professional training at a high school level. I didn't realize how just impressive it was. I just knew it was like an onslaught of that I was getting at the time. But what I did have was like life experience to sort of catch up to me. So I understood the characters better. I understood what they were going through. So then I could sort of take the techniques I learned, meld it with life experience, and sort of get to a better performance and better understanding of the characters in that regard. But I also had a love of filmmaking that was just sort of boiling around inside.
Is that about wanting to have a bit more authority and control of the end product? Like,
Well, Warren is power hungry.
Absolutely. That's I just that's
two get
that's
along.
my go-to is always where's the power play right now.
Yeah.
I did love. I've always been. I will say I wanted to have some kind of agency with what I'm doing, and as an actor, you can get into a place where you sort of feel like a pawn.
Yeah, sure.
If you're really skilled, you're considered a chess piece, right? Like a real chess piece. But for the most part, you're just a pawn. I guess technically they're both chess pieces. But you're not the one making decisions. You're not able to decide what you're going to be in a commercial,
Right.
a major motion picture, a TV, nothing.
Yeah.
And like nothing is like a large part of it for like your first 3-4 years. Like it takes a lot of repetition as an actor to get in front of casting directors, to build relationships with them, to build relationships with producers before you can really make some headway and book like a substantial gig that becomes, a stepping stone to the next one at kind of entry level. So
how many years did you pursue acting?
about a year.
Okay. That's
Where I solely was pursuing that.
fail fast. Not that you failed. I'm sorry. Not that you failed,
It was-
Warren.
Gosh.
I just,
No, I mean,
Yeah,
I honestly, I was a.
but how'd you get?
I
You
did
got
it-
an agent and you were booking things.
So
within a
before,
year?
well, here the funny
Good
story.
job.
So before I had an agent and before I had a talent manager, and those are really, it's so hard because everyone sort of spends as a young actor, you spend so much time and energy. Like, how do I get an agent to get me out there to get these jobs? Like, I know I've got the talent. How do I get there? And so you're trying to figure out, is it cold calling? Is it through a friend? It's usually relationships eventually where someone who has a manager or an agent, and they're like, hey, you should look at my friend because they're really talented. And then you get in. So when I first started, I didn't have it. I became my own talent agent, which is not uncommon for the really entrepreneurial actors out there,
Yeah.
where you create your own fake company. Mine was Sterling Emerald Management
How
or
did
Sterling Management.
That sounds very
What was your
fancy.
agent's name? Do you remember?
Robert Sterling,
Nice.
which I don't think anyone really caught on to, but and it took me a minute before it kind of dawned on me, like halfway into, I think I was it was a very short-lived dual experience as actor and talent manager for yourself as a different personality. I set myself on terrible auditions. I was a terrible manager. I set myself on an audition that, you just want to book something. And
Yeah.
because of that, you can put yourself in really vulnerable states when you are in desperate need of wanting to achieve something, right? And I set myself on an audition that after I got there, I realized that this is probably not where I should be. I read the script and then they're like, oh, can you take your shirt off? And it wasn't like
Go on.
adult, okay?
Go on, Warren. Tell us more.
It wasn't overly adult, but it was enough to I was like starting to kind of pull the shirt off. I remember taking the shirt off, just kind of standing there like,
This
called-
feels wrong.
Isn't this
This
called
feels so
casting
wrong.
couch?
I was like,
there's a term of
am I-
art for this.
and my first thought was, man, I am firing my manager.
Yes.
He is terrible. This is his last day. So then, I walked away from that. I was like, okay, well, this isn't working out, and I just need to chill, go through the process. And I think like a month later, a friend of mine, so it's like, hey, I know this woman who is looking to for new talent to hip pocket and stuff, and that's sort of the term when you're like not going to sign officially,
Yeah.
but they're going to represent you and send you out in auditions.
Okay.
They called hip pocket.
Okay.
So
Oh, okay.
just put you in their
Gotcha.
pocket
Their
where
pocket.
it's not official, but you're getting they're getting the benefit of you. And if you book something, well, then they're going to sign you.
They're road testing.
So
you.
Road
Warren is
testing,
taking off
yeah.
shirts and getting into hip pockets as
Yeah,
well.
that's what I heard.
Taking off shirts and getting in hip pockets.
Yeah.
That's our podcast, folks.
Yeah. That's the life advice right there.
So I fired myself as my manager, and then I lived the kind of auditioning life of an actor. I worked as a bellhop in Century City, and I had more Hollywood experience at the hotel than I did in my auditioning experience because we hosted all of the press junkets for all the 20th Century Fox films. And, I had a who's who list of, actors and celebrities
You were
checking.
running in the circle. You were
Checking into the hotel.
proximity.
And, we had really vibrant conversations in the elevator where we just kind of stared at each other for a while. And
Can you drop some names? Do you remember?
sure. So I checked in. I probably spent 5 minutes with each of these people, right?
Okay, right.
Sandra Bullock, Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan. The most interesting.
I love, and you were a bellhop.
I was a bellhop, yeah.
That
The
is a
Park
movie
Hyatt
in and of
Century
its
City.
own. Can you make that
Oh, yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
The bellhop.
Funny you should say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I've actually developed I have a treatment for a screenplay called Bellman. That's
That's excellent.
more of a National Lampoon's comedy kind of concept, which is completely outside my realm as suspense thriller. So I had to find somebody else to produce that. So I had all these experiences, and the interesting one, or the most fascinating to me, was this guy who walked around the hotel and would come hang out at the bell stand and kind of chat with us and shoot the breeze. And he was like, it's 30 or 25 years ago, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I'm just tried out for the Padres, and trying to figure out that's gonna happen or not. And I'm like, man, this guy's he is not a spring chicken, and he's trying out for the Padres. Nothing is computing with me. And
I don't know what the Padres.
San Diego Padres, they're a baseball team,
gonna say,
Major
thank
League
you.
Baseball.
Baseball.
Sorry.
Okay, thanks.
So we're in Los Angeles. He was trying out the Padres, and he was staying at the hotel. And it all just was kind of weird. But I was like, whatever, you're a guest. I'm just nice to you, and
Yeah.
you're nice to me. And he's been tipping well, $10 here and there. And then afterwards, someone came up to me, and they're like, hey, what was he talking to you about? What was he talking to you about? I was like, I don't know. We're just shooting the breeze about the Padres and baseball. And I'm a Mets fan, so we kind of chatted about that. And he's like, oh, that's cool. That's cool, man. I'm like, who is that guy? And he's like, oh, that's Garth Brooks, man. I was like,
Stop it.
Garth Brooks? He's like, yeah. I was like, I don't really recognize him. He's like,
What?
it's like nobody does when he doesn't have his cowboy hat on.
Yeah,
and it
I've
was
never
true.
seen him without
This
a tie.
man-
Superman. And
This man
glasses.
walked around
Hold
the
on.
hotel.
Who am I?
No, it was like all he had to do was take off the hat and walk around the hotel, and he was like
And no
Clark
one
Kent.
knew.
Not a
Oh,
single
my
soul
goodness.
would stop him. He was just like average Joe walking around the hotel. But as soon as he like puts on that cowboy hat, it was like Superman. It was like flock to
That's
him.
insane. Did I miss this point in my life where Garth Brooks was a baseball player?
So there was a small, and I just happened to be at this hotel in this fragment of time where he was trying out for the Padres and just wanted to be a baseball player. Like it was like a midlife crisis or something. But he was like 40, trying out for the
Wow.
Padres. And
This podcast is my midlife crisis, by the way. Sorry.
well, the interesting part about it was I got pulled into taking notes from his hotel room to another hotel room. And I had no idea what was going on at the time. Later, it kind of came out that it was, I guess he and Trisha Yearwood were
Oh.
friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And so but I was being, kind of couriered to room to, pass notes and
Did
such.
you ever sneak a peek?
No, of course not. Of course not.
He tipped well, so no.
But I'm not breaking any kind of NDA right now, even just saying this. And it's all news
Yeah.
from 25 years ago. Nobody really cares anymore. But at the time, when it was sort of discovering it, it was sort of like, oh my God,
That's so cool.
what is happening here?
Yeah, that is cool.
So what was next?
Yeah. So moving out of my bellman life, I decided to make I wanted to make a film and kind of pull all of my resources. And so I did. And several of my friends from college, some in the BFA program, my roommate who was a business major, who was like, "Oh, you're making a movie?" He's like, "Oh, and then I would invest in this, And
Says the
it's like,
business major.
right, the business major. And
I
bless his
see
heart,
money in my future.
he and I set off to create this film, and we raised like $250,000.
What?
And-
Stop.
Yeah.
This is where our ears get
Arash
prickly.
cares deeply about how people raise money.
Yeah.
Oh, I will tell you,
Because no one gives me
I will
money.
tell you a fascinating story about that.
Okay.
So I'll just cut through the chase. We had a script. We put our talent together. We actually, another Jacksonville connection, the late, great Jay Thomas, rock jock DJ from, went to JU and was up in New York for a long time and was in Mr. Holland's Opus. He was Eddie LeBeck on Cheers back in the day.
Oh, wow.
He signed on to the project.
Okay.
And that was like a kind of a fun, thing. Every film endeavor is just a massive undertaking of personalities,
Yeah.
experience, and it's like getting a PhD in filmmaking every single time you do it because every journey
It's
is
different.
completely different.
but-
They're all their own like little companies that
Yeah.
So
Oh, how exciting.
I was just cut to, we left Los Angeles, caravan to Florida, and I had raised, I think, 80,000 at that point in time, and I needed to get to 250. So I arrived here in the dead of summer, air conditioning not working in my car, and just pulling resources, friends, family, whoever had somebody who had some disposable income that might be able to put $5,000 or $10,000 into my movie, and I just did like the put together, had all the paperwork.
How old were you at this point?
23.
Okay.
23.
That's great.
Bright-eyed and bushy
Oh,
tailed.
Yeah.
if I knew what I knew now, I never would have done any of it because I would have been too overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
And the best part about when you're young and you're ignorant of the life, the things, you sort of allow yourself to push through because
Yeah.
you don't know what's on you don't
Right.
know like everything that's going to come along with this, with this journey. You just see like what's in front of you, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and that's
Yeah.
I mean that's the best, and it's the best way to be when you're young.
Yeah.
So I spend the summer driving in this, 100-degree temperature, and I would arrive to like a pitch meeting, it's just soaking
Nice.
wet, in like, slacks and a dress shirt. And I got to the point where I was like, I'd drive wherever I was going to be in my t-shirt. And then I would like run inside. If it was a building, I'd run inside with my dress shirt, change in the bathroom, try to cool myself off, then put the shirt on, and then go back to the car, trying not to sweat, go back to the car, get the materials, and then run back into the building. Sometimes I succeeded and sometimes I didn't. But I got to the point where I had raised about $200,000 over the course of about 8 weeks or so.
Oh my God.
And
Good for you.
As a 23-year-old?
yeah,
That's amazing.
thanks, I guess.
Yeah.
I think
It didn't really
so
seem like
impressive.
it just
I feel
seemed
like the
like we were
23-year-old you needs a round of applause.
Oh, okay, yay, good job, 23-year-old.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where I just knew like what we needed, and it was always about pushing forward and belief in yourself that it's all going to come together
Yeah.
as long as you do the work,
Yep.
right? As long as you do the preparation, you do the work, it will come together. So I remember thinking I have already lined up all of these student interns from North Carolina School of the Arts, where my uncle was a cinematographer in residence and could kind of figure out who they were. I'd made arrangements with them to come down. I picked out the hotel off of JTB and worked through the Chamber of Commerce to get a rate there at wherever the hotel was. And so they were coming regardless in like 2 weeks. I'd already signed agreements with the cast. We had committed financially to them. They're coming to make a movie. Like everyone's coming to make a movie, except I was 2 weeks away and I didn't have the money to finish making this movie for production. And it was like another 50 grand after that for like post-production stuff. But I needed 50 just to.
So you had a little bit of time, or did you really need to secure all of the capital before you started?
I needed to secure all the capital that we were going to spend.
Okay.
So it was like we were going to be in production for 4 weeks. And so we were 6 weeks away from that last day.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks away from principal photography.
Mm-hmm.
And we were $50,000 short.
Mm-hmm.
And so the producer and myself, another producer and myself decided we're like kind of walking around trying to figure this out. We're trying to spearhead ideas. We're like, all right, this is what we do, okay? We're like, it's not there anymore, but the days then in Jax Beach, I'd been a bellhop in high school, and the general manager, Warren Skeels, had said, like, if you need to use our like upstairs suite for anything, like, it's fine while you're here. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to need it for anything. And then I was like, wait, I've got it. We're going to take everybody that we know, anybody who's had a semblance of interest in this. We're going to tell them, we're going to give them a date, like this weekend or this Saturday. Let's find out the first 3 people we know we can come. We'll make it that day, right? So I think it ended up being a Saturday evening. And we're like, we're just going to put them all there and get them all in the room. I've got our pitch. I put together pitch materials that included like a VHS of the cast. I was like, oh, here's, Lisa Dean Ryan from Doogie Howser, and Jay Thomas from Mr. Holland's Opus, and Lynn Shay from There's Something About Mary. So little clips of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I'm forgetting a really key piece. Jay Thomas went on David Letterman, and because he was good friends with him, and you go on like 3 or 4 times a year. He went on David Letterman like a week before this and was talking about some Showtime thing he was doing. But at the end, and he told me, he's like, Warren, he called me, I was like, Warren, watch David Letterman tonight. And I was like, okay, I'll watch David Letterman. And on the offshoot, something happened. I was like, let's put a VHS tape in and hit record, right?
Excellent.
A VHS tape, I feel like we
hit
need to
record, I
tell
know.
the audience
Yeah,
is a old recording
It's a
device
vehicle.
of
It's a vehicle.
video before everything else.
Yeah.
Okay, back to us.
Thanks.
So Jay Thomas is there. He's talking to David Letterman, and Vinny Testaverde quarterbacks on. They're like doing something, and at the end he talks about Showtime, and then he says, and David Letterman's like, so what? All right. So the summer, you're doing Showtime. What else you got going on? Cues him up. And he's like, well, I'm going down to Jacksonville and, I'm working on it. And he's like, oh, that's going to be, Dave's making his joke. He's like, oh, it's going to be nice and cool down there. And he's like, oh, humidity here we come over. He's like, but no, I'm doing a Warren Skeels film.
Oh, nice.
Excellent. Yes.
He says
Your
that.
23-year-old heart just goes boom, boom.
My
boom.
23-year-old, see, I wish my 23-year-old creative was like, oh, that's so sweet. That's so kind, right? But it was the business mind that took over, and I was like, okay, I might be able to get the rest of the money now,
Yeah.
right? Just by him
Yeah.
saying that, I was like,
Yeah.
I might be able to get the rest of the money.
Yeah.
This might happen. I was
Yep.
like, okay. We recorded it, right? We played it back. We're like, great, yep, done. And he called me afterwards. He was like, hey, did you watch it? I was like, I did. Thank you so much. That's good. Oh, because I told him I didn't have all the money yet, and I was like, I felt like I had to tell him.
Yeah.
I was like, I have to tell him, like, as a
Good for you for
mentor.
being honest.
So he went on David Letterman and did that. So then I went down the next day and I got like 3 investments just by putting in the VHS tape. And they're like, oh, this is like a real thing. I mean, he just said your name on TV.
Yeah.
It means absolutely nothing, right? Like really, but
Yeah.
there's some kind of validation
Yeah,
there for
yeah.
the project
Right.
that I was able to secure like that's when you said like how did you get all that money? Well, it's things like that. So I get up to 200. So I'm still 50,000 short. So we make this plan at the day's end. We're going to invite all these people who have nibbled, or thought maybe they come, an opportunity for the 5 or 6 people who did invest to come and see what's going on. Want to make sure they were included. They've got friends. Are they going to invite somebody to come? Why don't you bring a friend, right? So we have a list of 24 people coming to the first session because I had 2 sessions. I was like, oh, we got to, like, people can't come at 6, they can come at 7, right?
Suite is only so big.
Suite's only so big. 24 people coming to the first session. And then we have 20 people coming to the next session. I'm like, okay, we have 44 people coming here. I'm doing the math in my head. Okay, if, we took a limited investment, blah, 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 like we could get 44, like we can get to 50, right? So we get this whole spread. Like we put money into this spread. We've got 44 individual investor packets ready to go. I get the presentation. And we get to the first presentation and we got chairs lined up, right? 3 people show up.
Oh no!
One of them was a previous investor who put in like $3,000, and bless his heart, his name's Gary Lindros, and he owned and ran, still alive by the way, AAA auto parts, like you pull it on the north side off of Main Street.
Yeah.
So my father's an attorney, and he was a client of my father's, and I think he was just sort of like, I'll invest a little bit of money into this.
Yeah.
So he had put like $3,000 in, and 3 people show up, and I'm just like devastated, right? And then I remember what my acting training came into
I
play
was just gonna say, you got to be an actor now.
because I remember Jim Wilson, who was like my professor, my senior year in college at SC. Which, by the way, is an incredible program. When I say I didn't learn anything new, like you learn in life, and there are things I learned there.
I thought you were
obviously.
going to say you just took off your shirt.
I wish it was that easy. So Jim told us, he was like, look, you never know who's in the audience. So it doesn't matter whether you got a packed house or one person, you give your best performance because you never know who's watching. So in that moment, I kind of just leaned on that to a little bit. It's kind of like shut up in the back of my head, right? But I was like, all right, you just have to just do it, right? And it's always good practice. I think doing any kind of sales, presentation is just good practice. So I give my best, and Gary, who was there, he's like, oh, that was good. It's good to, good to see what you got going on here. Well, hope you get the rest of the money. Walks out the door, right? The next 2 people are like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, here, do you want an investment packet? I'm like, sure, I'll take one. I'm like, do you want some cocktail shrimp? We got some banana, whatever, And they're like, oh, no, we're good. Thanks. That's cool. I hope you get the money. That's really cool. I'm like, okay, well, and I think the hardest thing to do is ask, right?
Yeah.
And I remember being there. I was like, well, do you think this is something that, that you'll invest in? And the 2 in like their own way were just kind of like, we're going to think about it, but it'll probably be, we'd have to, think about it. I'm like, okay, means no. They leave. We're like, okay, whatever. The 7:00 show is about to start, right? Not a single soul comes. We had 20 RSVPs. Not a single soul comes. I'm on the phone. I'm calling. I feel like I'm in my own movie now, right? I'm like, I'm calling people. I'm like, hey, listen, do you need later? What if we start like 30 minutes later? Do you think you can make it then? When's a good time to? Can we meet tomorrow? And desperation starts setting in, and you start feeling like nothing good is going to come from this. So, and I remember the producer, she was making calls. I was like, stop. I was like, we can't. Like, we just got to stop. It is what it is. We tried. I don't know what we're gonna do. Maybe this is maybe we start talking about the horrible loan concept, right? Which is like just something you never really want to try to get into as an independent filmmaker, But we were just kind of dead in the water. So
you had a lot of shrimp to eat.
Had a lot of shrimp cocktail at this point. I mean, at that point I was like, well, we ordered it, whatever. I was like champagne, whatever. Like we were and then I just kind of stopped at one point. I was like, gathering everything, cleaning up. It was not, a fun mood. And we decided, we're like, well, let's just go downstairs and I guess we'll just get a drink at the hotel bar. So we walk downstairs and I walk in and there's Gary sitting there having a drink at the bar. And And I'm like, oh, hey, Gary, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. He's like, yeah, no, it was good. It was a good presentation. I was like, yeah. I was like, he's like, what are you drinking? I'll get you a drink. I was like, thanks, Jack and whatever, right? And we're sitting talking. He's like, well, so how much money do you need, like, to really, to finish production? I know you need more money for post-production, but like, because you said you got people coming in. I was like, well, 50,000. He's like, okay. When would you need that by? And I was like, well, I would need at least 25,000 in 2 weeks, and then another 25,000 2 weeks after that. And he's like, okay. All right, this is what I'm willing to do. And that's how we got our money.
Oh my.
And he had come to just see how his investment was going, and was impressed enough in what was happening and wanting to see it come to fruition that he came to the table with the rest of the cash for it.
Wow.
So we were able to go into
incredible.
production for it. So
Thank you, Gary.
thank you, Gary Lindros. Yeah.
So what was the name of the film?
So you would never know of it. It was never officially released. No. So the film has had
And
many
Gary
names,
never
but-
talked to me again.
I mean, no. So that was learning how
Yeah.
to make a film
Yeah.
and put the film together financially. Then came, how do you market and distribute a film, which we knew nothing about. And that's sort of, I think, the biggest part of a filmmaker's experience that I learned firsthand, and I try to impart any kind of wisdom I have to independent filmmakers in the business, is to treat the filmmaking experience from start to finish. It's not just making the film.
Right.
That's what they want to focus on, is I want to make this movie, right? They're like, I want to make this movie and market it and distribute it. Like, that never comes out of their mouth. It's just, I want to make this movie.
Right.
But the reality is that that movie will chances are is never going to see the light of day if you aren't taking how it's going to be marketed and then whether it's potential for distribution, all in the same conversation. So I learned the hard way. We came out to market with, our plan was, we'll just take it to Sundance, sell for $1 million, and we're off into the sunset
There we
making
go.
more movies, right?
Great
That was literally like our marketing strategic distribution plan. And it happened to be the absolute worst time, maybe in the history of independent filmmaking, to try to take a film to market, because HD had just made a switch. Literally like the summer we're making the film, and Blair Witch had come out, and the success of that film on the budget size just created this influx of digital filmmakers that completely saturated the marketplace as we were hitting the marketplace. So there was just glut of films and content to be acquired or distributed. And so we had offers from Sundance Channel, Showtime, but we were also a 35 millimeter film. And in order to get our film to a deliverable for Showtime or Sundance Channel, it was like $80,000.
Man.
Digitally now, it's a matter of a render, right? So that $80,000 process matched up against a $30,000 or $40,000 2-year license is hard to justify spending that to get spend this money to put yourself $40,000 more in debt.
Right.
For the filmmaker, it would have been like, well, it's distributed. It has a distribution.
Yeah.
And if I knew then what I know now, we would have probably made one of those deals, because then 2 years later, there'd be another licensing opportunity and another. And by getting it out there and people seeing it, maybe it generates a different licensing opportunity in airlines or something else. And over time, that investment would have come back. But we were young and ignorant and didn't really know the business. And we were collectively making decisions off of, does 1 + 1 equal something better? And we're like, 80, negative 80 plus 40 equals negative 40. And we're like, okay, can't do that. So we're not servicing the investors by doing that. But now we realize we would have been servicing the investors by entering that deal, entering another deal, entering another deal after that, and slowly over time, working ourselves back to something profitable.
And look at what you learned.
Yes.
That's what you got.
Yeah. I mean, I think that in life, like, I always say, like, if I didn't learn what I learned on that process, like all of those small little failures were like guideposts to a successful
For
future.
sure. Yeah.
So I think sometimes when you find success early on, it ends up leading to like some colossal failures because you didn't learn different.
Right.
You didn't know why it is you succeeded in something.
Right. So then you did have success.
So yeah. So gosh, I made a couple different documentaries. One Chops about actually both documentaries featured Douglas Anderson. So it's kind of my love for the school and where I came from. But Chops was a documentary about the essentially Ellington jazz competition in New York, and it's like the Super Bowl of high school jazz, and all of the different high school jazz bands that kind of compete to get there, and that was a lot of fun because we knew we had a talented group that we were following here, and then also out in Seattle. We didn't know that they were going to win, but when they got to New York, we thought, well, there's just such an interesting story here that we felt like, okay, well, if they don't win, we still have a great story.
Right.
But then they ended up winning, and we're like, now we have an inspirational story. Like this is, now this is great. So we premiered that at the Tribeca Film Festival, which was an incredible experience. And the late Ed Bradley was in it, and Wynton Marsalis. And then after that, it led to making a documentary, Thespians, which is about the largest high school theater competition in the world. And once again, we featured Douglas Anderson and Dreyfuss in Palm Beach, Dr. Phillips in Orlando, and Stanton over here.
This is where I'm going to interrupt. I am a thespian.
What?
I am a thespian from Stanton.
What?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I just bumped my mic on that. That was a bump bike.
Would you like an autograph, Warren?
I would. Yeah, please. You're not leaving with that one now. Well, Stanton. So their story was actually, I think, the most fun in the film because they're, these tech nerdy guys who were, trying to figure out how to.
So what years was that? What years? Do you remember?
2008.
Okay.
2008. And then we brought, they had, their teacher brought in like a Broadway choreographer, James Kinney, who's teaching them these choreography moves. And they're not dancers. They're not really singers. But what they do know as Stanton students is that they feel like if they can work hard on something, they can engineer success, right? Yeah. So they did. They just poured their hearts into it. They learned all the dance moves.
That's awesome.
They learned the vocals. They weren't easy vocals, but they learned the vocals and they competed and they got superiors at districts and then they got superiors at state. And it was fun just to watch. That was just one of 4 or 5 different stories in it, but it was just really inspirational to see how they kind of view the world. And I wanted to make that particular documentary as a love letter to theater and the arts.
That's great.
And I think
sweet.
especially if we think about what's happening now with the arts, even more so, I don't think we can do that enough.
Yeah.
And really position, the value of what arts brings to, our culture in general.
So while you're making these documentaries, are you still raising funds for each one of them, or?
Yeah, so raising funds for all of them, usually we set up an LLC and an operating.
Each film gets its own LLC?
Each film is its own identity.
Yeah.
So each film gets its own LLC.
Okay.
And that was when I was at Tiger Lily Media, and then I left Tiger Lily and started Skeels Films.
Yep.
Tiger Lily, we were focused, and Tiger Lily is still running an incredible production company, focused on commercial advertising, marketing, agency, relationships, and then we're kind of getting to entertainment products occasionally. And I really just wanted to be on entertainment products full time. So I moved started Skeels Films, and I got a call from an entertainment attorney friend of mine, Lawrence Najim, who said he had a client down in Sarasota who was curious if his son and their friends, if there was something there about it could be a television show,
Mm-hmm.
and it was trying to look into how to explore it. How could this happen, right? And so, and asked if I would go down there and check it out, and I agreed to go, and I met with Alex, the son, ahead of time, just over had a phone conversation with him, and it was like, listen, okay, if there's a reality show here of some kind of unscripted show, I need to see all the personalities. So to bring over your top best female friend, your 5 top female friends, your top 5 male friends, and let's just kind of, and then let me go out with you guys for, a night, a weekend, whatever, just kind of hang out and I can get a sense of everybody. So we went down there. Oh, and the dad, look, Alex is like he is like a world-class fisherman. And he's an attorney now, and he's sort of building his own world kind of outside of his father, who, is an incredibly successful businessman, Gary. And so we came down, and I went out that evening, and we had a blast. And there was one girl in particular, Chloe, who was like his best kind of female friend, whose personality really stuck out immediately. And I just thought she was really fascinating. I was like, wow, you could build a whole show around this one. And he had just started dating this girl named Juliet. Like he was like 2 weeks into dating her at the time, and she was beautiful and sort of this kind of young ingenue, and fascinating in her own right. And there was something in the three of them, as kind of DNA, I would say, of a potential show. And and having conversations with Gary, he knew he's got a great eye for business, and he knew that there was something there, and he was right 100%, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
What that was, I don't think he really knew 100% either. And there was one version of the show at one point in time that was kind of like we should see him fishing by day and then kind of slaying the ladies by night kind of concept. and I was like,
Plenty of
okay,
fish in the
I will.
seas. I think.
And I remember putting together a treatment for that. And I think it was called like Full Throttle or something. To like, boy.
Everyone's shirts are off at this point.
And I put that together because I felt like that was the obligatory sort of thing that we kind of talked about. And then I was like, but here's a different treatment that is more the legacy of like a Laguna Beach that interests me because it's more about summer escapism, young love. It's like a little bit kind of like a trashy romance novel in a way. It's exotic in terms of the landscape.
Guilty pleasure.
It's a guilty pleasure. It's a summer guilty pleasure. And I think that there's a way cinematically we can tell the story visually to like really elevate it in a different light. And I was like, this is the one that I would partner on, And he was like, well, let's do it then. And he had always been an exceptional partner in terms of let's do that. Like if that's what you believe, let's do that.
Yeah.
And so he funded a pilot, and put together a budget, put together a team. I brought in Gareth Cox, longtime cinematographer and collaborator, and we shot a pilot. That pilot never aired. It would never air. And the intention was like not for it to air. It's the show. It's a proof of concept.
Right.
And ultimately what I knew is we needed to shoot enough of a show, like a 30-minute show, that we could cull down into a sizzle reel, because that's really how shows are sold. You put together a pitch deck, a sizzle reel, one sheet, and the tape, as they say in the biz, the sizzle reel concept, proof of concept, whatever, it's really your calling card for a show. And I thought we had some exceptional tape with these personalities and this lifestyle, in an exotic area of Florida.
Yeah, it's beautiful down there.
And so we took it out after we shot it in August, had it all cut together, and we knew we needed to find the right production partner for us. So we took it out, we shopped it for about a week. Lawrence and I went out to Los Angeles. We met about 12 different production companies. And
So at this point, how are you? I can't just call a production company and go look at my sizzle reel. So are you connected enough where you can go sit down with us? How does that happen?
Some are relationships, some are cold calls, just based on like a good match.
Okay.
So if in this case we're looking at unscripted, so I'm not going to go talk to a scripted team somewhere. We're going to talk to who's doing unscripted content, who has done similar or remotely similar concepts that have had success in selling those shows. So E1 was actually a previous partner of Lawrence in the film game on the film side, and I remember just saying, they have an unscripted division. You should reach out and just find out who the unscripted person is. So he did, and it ended up being, as a relationship business, our best contact, because I put it in touch with Tara Long, who was at E1 at the time, And she saw the tape and immediately said, I can sell this. I want you to come in and meet with, she's like, I just signed on Creature Films, Mark Ford and Creature, who have been executive producers on Laguna Beach. There's a lot of synergy here. Like, I want you guys to meet them when you're out here in LA. So we did. And the tape we had, they just thought, they're like, this is great. We love it, but we just want to make some minor creative adjustments to it. And we both agreed exactly what that was.
Oh, good.
And we were
They
both
didn't want to change it drastically.
No. We were all 100% on what the focus of the show should be as an ensemble show. And, Alex, kind of during that week sort of became like, Alex and Chloe sort of like, partners in like harvesting, like how we're going to do this, and I had to lean on them for their friendships, their relationships to, build a really quick sort of psychograph of these different personalities in order to be able to get them to interact in ways that were going to be TV worthy, let's just say.
Yep.
So we shot it. We get out to LA. We're pitching it. Meet with the companies. Tara puts us in front of Mark Ford. We decide this is great. We're just going to make a minor adjustment to it. They wanted to. It was strictly. They wanted to add narration to it.
Okay.
So I just went back down. I got with Juliet. We wanted to give it her voice through it. And because we felt like the demo was Laguna Beach.
Yeah.
And so, the hills and everything. And so if we were going to tap into that audience, we really needed that female narrative.
Yeah.
So that was the main kind of adjustment. And so we put that together and then we started pitching it. And we pitched it for like 4 months to every outfit out there. And everybody said the same thing, which was, this looks amazing. The personalities jump off the page, but we don't know who any of these people are. They're not and this was, 2000.
It's because they didn't have a podcast,
17.
Jen.
Yeah.
Well,
That was the first mistake. You want someone with a podcast.
absolutely. I mean, none of them had a podcast at the time.
Yeah.
None of them had a huge social media presence. They weren't a D-list celebrity.
They were only on Facebook.
They were, I mean, it may have been MySpace. No. Yeah, so they're really, I mean, I don't even know if Instagram was even a thing yet.
I'm trying to think.
like, so the market was really relying on like the D-list celebrity to build around an unscripted show or something. And they didn't have, and the only players that really did Laguna Beach and Hill was MTV.
Yeah.
And they took it to MTV and MTV passed. So we were in the fall of 2016. We were just kind of dead in the water. Like we had a concept. Everyone said they loved it, and we're like, didn't know what to do with it. And then the way the industry works, Viacom basically exited all of their MTV staff, the programming. They put their VH1 counterparts in charge of programming for MTV. And they wanted to harken back to a time in their this legacy where they were doing Jersey Shore and Laguna Beach and such. And so they reached out to our agents at WME, William Morris Endeavor, and said, do you have anything like a Laguna Beach in a red state?
Funny, you should ask.
Yes. So that conversation, I think, lasted about 15 minutes. And I got a call. I was down in Miami at the time at Nappy. And I was sitting in a conference listening to Kevin Beggs from Lionsgate TV to talk about the industry. And I was seeing a text message from Tara and Mark. They're like, hey, do you have a second? Call us. And of course, this isn't an everyday call you get. So I stepped out and they're like, all right, so here's the sitch. And they gave me the backstory and basically.
Sitch is another industry term.
A situation. Yeah.
Arash filed that one away for later usage.
File. Well, situation is also situationship. That's a relationship term. Situationship.
That's right. That's true.
Right. So I get this call, and they lay it out for me that they love it. They want in, and at that point in time, it was going to be a VH1 product because they were talking to other people at VH1. They were like, they're ordering 6 episodes. They want to go through light casting. 6 episodes. They want to on air this summer.
Light casting.
Meaning
cast. No.
Yes and no. One, it had been, mind you, 18 months since we shot the pilot.
Okay.
So when I get this call at this conference, I'm supposed to be in this conference for like 3 days.
Yeah.
I spent the next 3 days in a hotel room talking to every cast member, finding out where they were in their life at this juncture,
Yeah.
finding out, are you still on board? It would mean this, you know. And of course, my first call was to Juliet, who didn't believe me at all that this was becoming a show. And she was like, I mean, I'm in FSU, like I'm in school. And I was like, right. But
School is important.
I'm like,
does it
school's really
matter
important,
right now?
but you're going to do the show, right? And she came, I was like, I'm going to need Mark Ford to get on the phone with her to I need the next level to have this conversation. So she really, really believes this. So I got Mark on the phone and we call it. He's like, no, this is real. Like this is happening. And she's like, oh my God, Warren. Okay, I guess I'll come out. She's like, Alex and I aren't really.
Do you know what she was majoring in?
I think communications.
She made a good move.
Yeah, she did. She's a smart cookie. She's a smart cookie. I'll say that. She's like, Alex and I we're not even dating anymore. And I was like, that's fine.
Even
it's
better.
Fine.
Situationship.
Situations, right. So, but it's like time spent together, right? So once we kind of got all the casting. So anyway, you went to business with the creative side, and it's hard to balance, right?
Yeah.
Well, can I ask some questions here?
Yeah,
So
sure.
when we say
Jump in.
non-scripted,
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it?
Is it
It's unscripted. It is
but it is.
unscripted.
But are we putting people in a situation
Mhm.
and we're going,
And you have goals.
here's your goals.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
When you're doing unscripted, I'm not breaking any secret unscripted code or anything like that.
It's like
But because the show has had its fair share of people saying, oh, it's scripted. Oh, they're telling them to say this or whatever. When we're generating the content, we'll go into a let's say it's the setup, right? And beforehand, let's say that last night we were somewhere and we had a whole conversation about, your family, and there's some struggle going on in your family. So you knew that was going on, and we were drinking, hanging out, and I said some things, right? So now, next day, we're going to do a scene that's on a fallout scene is what we call it, of that we already filmed. And so we're going to be, the podcast room is going to be the setting. And we're going to shoot at 11. So our team would get there at 9:30. We'd set it up. We'd light it because it's a visual. It's elevated. So we'd light it, and we know that you're going to sit there. I'm going to sit in this side of the room, and beforehand, the producer will just have a conversation and remind me of the things that I said last night. Because
that's so helpful. I need that person to follow me around.
And they will
what I love is the
they will
producer's
remind
just
you-
making things up. And don't you remember how you said your mom cheated on?
Well, think about this. So whatever that struggle is, I'm just saying generalized struggle. The producer also, you come in and maybe you're like, yeah, whatever, we're all drinking. He said some things last night. It's no big deal, whatever. And you're like, but the producer will say, let's just take you back there though. It did mean something because you said this. And you're like, it's true. I did say that. Yeah. And you're like, and don't you think, is that a good representation of this? And just basically point out these different things to set up so you have two very distinct points of view, so that when you do sit down to have your scene, it's just a conversation that you guys are having. But we're the producers behind the scenes are
But how hard
huge
is that to
personal advocates for
Yeah.
the personalities.
Right.
And
Oh, what a cool job.
Yeah. But how are you creating the story arc?
So a lot of it is just, because we have these advocates, the producers that are helping them live their lives. We always say that it's like when you shoot for 3 months, you're living a year plus of your life that's happening over those 3 months. So rather than sitting there for 6 months contemplating whether I really should be with this guy or not, right? And having the conversations on a Thursday with your sister, and then 2 weeks now with your best friend, and then a month, and then you're kind of you might break up with somebody, you might break up with somebody, and another 2 weeks later you're talking to, your college friend, and then finally you get that piece of information that finally allows you 3 months later to break up with somebody.
Yeah.
We just make sure that all happens in one episode. So you will have all those
reality TV show, and I think so do you.
So you have all those conversations.
Yeah.
But we just help arrange it with all those different people in a span. So we're like, okay, we just break it down. All right, they're struggling with whether or not to break up with their boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's get a conversation with her and her best friend, and then she should go to dinner with her mom and talk about it, and then she should go, and have a conversation with the guy's friends later that night out at the bar. Right?
And is the cast ever resistant, or are they pretty much, this is great? Or How do they typically?
They're just going through and living their life.
Yeah.
So they're
It's
like,
just
yeah, I'll have
free
this conversation.
therapy, though.
Yes,
I
it
think
comes
I need a
across like
producer.
that. And
Yeah.
sometimes the therapy ends well, where they make
Yeah.
healthy decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
And then sometimes they are their own personality,
Yeah.
and they're kind of, sometimes they don't make the best decisions. And when they make, whatever decision they make, we just follow that and follow into what's next. What's that next story thread? They broke up with their boyfriend. Okay, well, what's next? Who are they going to date now?
Yeah.
Right? So there's, who are
Can
the
I have
options?
a month?
Like, no, it's like, who
No.
are the options?
One day to get over it.
But I remember Amanda Miller, who's on the show for a long time, and a filmmaking graduate of, after she did the show, a filmmaking graduate from Sarasota's Ringling's School of Film and Design. She always said it felt like summer camp. And, even though she went through a lot with all of the cast and the crew, it had a deeper, affinity for everybody. And even though it's like really hard times at times, like at the other end of it, it just feels like an experience that she wouldn't have ever wanted to trade and give up. And that it's like living a year of your life in 3 months or more.
That's crazy. Oh, how fascinating.
Yeah. So how many seasons did Siesta Keys run?
So Siesta Key was on for 89-hour episodes over 5 years and 8 cycles.
Congrats. That's really quite an accomplishment.
Thanks. It is truly like winning the lottery because we were dead in the water 15 months
Yeah.
later, and then there was just an industry change, different mandates, and all of a sudden we went from being at the bottom of the barrel to being
At the
head
top.
of the class. Went into
Yeah, that's
went into production, and they ordered 6 episodes to start, and then changed to 8. And then by the time we were filming, they'd ordered 10 episodes, and then they moved it from VH1 to MTV. So we were filming.
And are you raising the price of each episode as this happens?
No. There's a fixed per episode budget that the network and E1, the production entity, really they dial in that, and then it's like first season, and then they have like, there's different elevators, and when they move from one season to a next, different negotiations happen. The cast gets to negotiate their rates, at a certain point in time, and so there's the whole business part of it is equally interesting to the creative side.
Yeah. I want to talk about the movie you produced and technology and film. But before we do, I think it's time. Because we're interested in getting into business with you.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. So we have a couple of ideas.
Pitch them.
Pitch it like it's hot.
That's the
Pitch it like it's hot. Pitch it like it's
Really
hot.
put that down.
Should I take off my shirt? Is that joke getting old, or
I don't know.
Can I keep going with it?
Yes.
You don't want me to take off my shirt.
I can't even believe I even went back there.
We're happy you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can't get you to cry, then I can at least get you to tell an embarrassing story.
There's got to be more though. We need tears for this show to be effective. We need tears.
Oh my God! You start talking about AI, we'll be in tears.
Okay,
Great.
perfect.
That's the next segment.
Okay.
Okay.
So the premise of the game is going to be we're going to pitch you a concept, but we really only have about 30 seconds.
Okay.
And one of our previous guests, Matthew Chang, said, just give the title and don't let me ask questions. And he felt like the game would have been more successful. So I'm going to put this rule in place to say you've got no titles.
Okay, good.
The concept, that's our pitch. So just the 30-second elevator pitch of what we want to bring to life. No questions. You have to decide whether or not you want to make this show or this movie.
This is yes or no.
It's yes or no.
Okay.
These are contractual obligations.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, we have you recorded.
Where's the fine print?
There is no fine print. This
is maybe an option, or is it just yes and no?
It's just yes is the option.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just yes. Got it. Affirmative.
I think you should go with yours first.
Okay. Picture this. Middle-class men and women. Just your average Joe and Sally. Living in your average city. And it could be Jacksonville. Now, we have the tagline, Doing Duval. I'll leave you with that.
I think you need more. You got it. All right. answer, and then I think you got to
Okay, well, okay, fine.
But no, wait. Well,
No.
Okay, now context.
Now context.
Okay, now context.
We are all very familiar with the TV series Sex and the City. And many people have this as one of their
And now we want to do something
guilty
humping
pleasures.
in the town.
We're going to put a muzzle on him pretty quickly.
Sorry.
Well, what we want to do is create a little bit more of a real world experience for the people who are watching the show. So you take Jacksonvillians. Duval is huge. We've got a lot of great restaurants and bars. We have a new fresh scene. We've got beautiful water with the St. Johns River and the beaches. So we've got plenty of places to film. And I feel like the Sex and the City concept was, these people have money. This is a little out of touch. I can't really relate. This is pie in the sky, but I'm obsessed with it. I will never be that. But doing Duval, you can get down with, you can go to the Jags game and, meet a really exciting person that then you go on a few dates with and maybe some weird stuff happens.
We get it.
I mean, that's why I live here, right?
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 Interesting things happen.
Is it still a no or is it converted to a yes? We need honest opinions here. Okay, it's a no.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
You're supposed to say the truth. No one wants a relatable Sex in the City. We want aspirational Sex in the City.
Oh, that's insightful.
Yeah.
Jen, I want to do business with you, but not on this idea.
Okay.
All right, my turn.
Okay.
Now you have to say yes to Arash or he will storm out.
All right.
Joe Rogan.
No. No, actually, I can't just say no to Joe Rogan.
Okay.
Like he has some interesting guests, and certainly
He does.
he certainly brings a lot of interesting topics and conversation and debates. So
Well, there's
I think
another
that's
part.
good.
So Joe Rogan
Copy.
meets Barbara Walters,
Oh,
and they have the male version of The View, a daytime view with just men with opinions talking, a daytime show of men. So similar to like a broadcast that are on podcasts and is getting super popular. But
they did that though. They had
They did?
there was the Man Show, and then there was
remember.
another show.
No, but that's
There was
two.
another
That's
show with-
two-man show.
There was another show
yeah.
with 4 guys, and they just like broed out and hung out. But it was like a talk show format. I can't remember what the name of the show
Did they
was though.
mansplain the whole time?
Oh my
That's
God.
what else would we be doing?
Okay, now it's a no for sure. Now it's a no.
In
'Cause
fact,
now I
that should
can't
be
get the
name- in
mansplain
fact,
out of
That
it.
should be the name of the show, mansplaining. Oh, that would work.
No woman
more.
would ever watch it.
Okay.
Way to alienate your audience.
I think we.
Lord.
I think we got it.
Come on, I want to get to a yes. You got more, right?
Okay, I think you're going to like this one. This is a documentary.
Yes.
And what I think is important to know that the vision really is watch a community come together to solve their own problems, break down the silos, use technology and artificial intelligence for good to solve our own problems.
Yes.
I knew it. Boy, do I have an opportunity
Oh,
for you.
excuse me. Oh man, that was. I fell asleep during that pitch, Warren.
It was the best one so far.
Okay.
Yeah. And what's yours?
All right. Well, I was gonna go with one. I'm gonna switch it.
Oh.
I got all of a sudden I got a lot of ideas. Presidential candidate reality show. So it is like
I've been pitched something like this before.
you've what? Say that again.
I've been pitched something like this before.
Oh,
No
really?
kidding.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
you're
that's some fun title like The Campaign or something like that.
something stupid like that. So you have people that are trying to run for president.
Mhm.
Maybe they're actually in politics. It's sort of like American Idol, but for politics.
Okay, their journey through the campaign.
And if you win, you get
Mhm.
X amount of dollars towards your campaign, and maybe that's a way to break up the two-party system, because they don't have to run as a.
Do you think that we will eventually just have a reality show that the victor wins the presidency and everybody votes through their phones or online?
Oh, I hope
Because
not.
that can't go haywire.
Not at all. Nothing can go wrong.
Or
with that.
maybe we have a reality show about winning your immigration rights, U.S. citizenship.
I mean, that was pitched, right?
That was actually
Yeah,
pitched.
that
That's
was
an
actually
actual
pitched, right.
thing that apparently.
And maybe my idea is too late, because you could say Donald Trump already did this idea.
Yeah.
He already made it happen.
True.
It
There
is
is,
a way.
in a way, you can say that.
All right, so I'm going to go with my other idea really quickly. And then
Oh, look.
All right.
Guys, just brewing them.
Yeah,
today.
well, I mean, I got
Boiling
notes,
it up.
so
This is what he spends his time at work doing, just thinking of these concepts.
I need an updated, relatable, similar to Jen's, road trip movie.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's
family
right. I
road
do
trip
want you to
movie.
pitch this.
Okay.
I think too many very wealthy people try to make a road trip movie and they don't get what it's like for middle-class dad and mom to travel across the country, stopping at gas stations, cleaning up diapers, trying to find a snack, the screaming, the crying, trying to leave Atlanta at 7 o'clock in the morning. But by the time you actually get out of Atlanta, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Tragic.
I feel like we need that. I need a relatable road trip movie.
I mean, yes, it's a fun comedy for sure.
And that would be pretty cheap
Yeah,
to film
it would
as
be.
well.
I can do it for free.
And you wouldn't even have to worry about at what point in time you're going to film the changing of the diaper that exploded in your trunk, because it's guaranteed to happen.
And the vomit.
And yeah.
There's lots. How many kids do you have, Warren?
Dos.
Okay. So he knows.
Yeah, but they're
They're adults.
17 and 19. They're
Okay.
like basically walking adults now.
Yeah.
They're no longer in diapers.
So I think you got one funding. I got one. You're not going to do the presidential one?
Well, I passed on one before like that, so I feel like I would be going back on something.
It's never too late to visit something.
It's never too late.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if my experience has been anything, that you're never out of the game, and that's something that I try to
Clearly.
tell everybody. That I'm like, if you have a story and you're trying to pitch it, like you have to be your best advocate for it, and if it's something you believe in, you just got to
Exactly.
stay with it, and whether it's now or a year from now, especially writers with stories and screenplays, for every movie that gets made, that screenwriter has probably written 10 screenplays, and this is one that got made.
Yeah.
They may have a better screenplay that they wrote that hasn't been made,
Right.
but the right circumstances, the right producer came
Right.
along that said, I want to make this particular screenplay and into something, and I can get marketing and distribution and everything behind it.
Yep, that makes total sense. Let's dive in now. Obviously, our viewers probably know a little bit about me and Arash. So we work in technology, artificial intelligence. So we're very curious to know.
We're both artificially intelligent.
That's
Are you
accurate.
guys robots?
Yes.
Am I?
We aren't really here.
Oh my God, is this really a Turing test right now?
This
my God.
is a reality show where you speak to robots and you don't know. You don't realize
The
it.
Turing test.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the intersection
Mhm.
and the stress, the concern, the fears, the hopes of what AI is going to do to the industry.
I think the entire industry is reshaping itself right now, and it's been forced to.
Naturally, yeah.
We've had the last 5 years since 2020 we've never seen something like this with Hollywood happen. We had COVID, which changed
Yeah.
everything,
Right.
and then we had the strikes.
But it came out of COVID. There was a
Mhm.
rebound.
It came out of COVID, but the production that happened after COVID and through 2022 was really more so like finishing out projects and getting projects made before the next wave that hit, which was
Yeah.
the strikes.
Yep.
So once the strikes hit, everything increased by like 20% across the board. So while I'm a union member, the DGA, WGA, and I believe in the gains that we've received on the business side, the flip side from the studio perspective, the people paying for things, if the film cost you one thing and it now costs you 20% more, regardless of what you're going to do, just to go out there, it's going to cost 20% more now on any project.
Yeah.
That's you have to figure out where's that profit going to come to cover that.
Right.
And they're driven by profits, the corporations.
Naturally.
So they have to think of different ways to make their money. And the other kind of convergence of things that happened after the strikes, more recently we had the fires out there that kind of wiped out
Yeah.
half of, knocked out the Palisades, and, literally people don't have homes and executive stuff. So they're kind of dispersed. And then we have the advent of AI, which is changing the technology, and all of that converging with the fact that we had the streaming wars happening, the IP wars essentially for probably since about 2000. It kind of came in around 2007, 2008, and it kind of ended around 2022. And what I mean by ended is everyone is vying for subscribers, right? All these streaming platforms. But once they reached like critical subscription, like they had what they're gonna get, right?
Yeah.
Unless more people are born and subscribe, they're not gonna find it. So what started happening, and this is like a lot of talk, was they started renting subscribers, meaning subscribers would drop an ad, because they can. It's, that's a right that we have right now, which is good.
Yeah.
But because of that, and because of this critical mass, like all these things are now contributed to like a major shift and change in the industry. One, Hollywood doesn't have, it has its cornerstone like in Los Angeles, but the majority of, I think it's something like 75% of production now is happening in other places.
Right.
Atlanta, New York, New Jersey, the studios, the streamers, they're Netflix building studio in New Jersey. Sony and Warner building studios in Nevada. Louisiana has their tax incentives.
Right.
Georgia tax incentives.
Florida does not.
Florida does not have tax incentives, so we've kind of fallen out of the game. Worldwide, there are major tax incentives in Ireland and Hungary.
Yeah.
So the production has sort of shifted to being able to be anywhere.
Right.
And so that's sort of one kind of physical, logistical reshaping that's sort of happened over the last 15 years. And then from a business model, they've kind of reached their critical like mass of what they have. And so they have to change. How are they going to make profits?
Right.
So one thing that we started seeing was that they started licensing with each other to give their own audience. So if I'm a Hulu subscriber and someone else is an Amazon subscriber,
confusion for me. Yes.
You may all of a sudden see a show that was typically a show that was licensed somewhere else originally.
Yeah.
But by, doing a trade, they're not spending money on production,
Right.
but they're giving new material to their audience. Right. So like Suits, for example, and if they can get you on shows if they can fill the algorithms to get you on shows that you're going to dominate your viewing in time, you're going to be longer on that platform.
So is that why last night I was getting onto Amazon Prime to watch your movie, actually.
Oh,
and
well played.
Yes. And I think it asked me if Amazon Prime could connect to my Apple TV account. And I said, no.
Oh, interesting.
Because they wanted to feed me something.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway.
They're up to something.
Well, they're definitely Prime and Apple are up to something, because I noticed Severance, you guys are familiar with the TV show, that has only been on Apple. And then I noticed that there were an episode, maybe it was the first season, on Prime. I was like, wait, I don't have to pick up Apple again. I can just watch this on Prime, because I'm never getting rid of Prime, obviously. But no, it was only like a tease. You could have just a few episodes, or maybe it was season 1. Anyway.
Well, and like Apple and Amazon have dominated the PVOD market, pay video on demand for a long time. But, you see players like YouTube who you can also, buy buy your content on YouTube as well. And they've just sort of, they've grown their user base and subscribers for a long time, and have, they toyed with trying to get into premium prestige content, and it didn't really go so well with them, like YouTube Red or whatever. But they haven't left the game, and in fact, they are, because of their audience and viewers, they are the future, even over they're competing with Netflix now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting just to see the viewing habits of not, to go from the Gen X to millennials and now to Gen Z, where Gen X, we're very long form dominant. We like, movies, we like TV series, and we'll kind of dabble into Facebook and Instagram, and, but we're subject to going down rabbit holes. But, you skip millennials and you get into Gen Z, they will get into rabbit holes, right? And they're a lot more interested in short form content, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok. And while they're interested in movies, they actually want a more prestige experience. They're more apt to go to the movie theater to see a movie on a big screen and kind of compartmentalize their experience to that. Whereas on their phone, they don't want to watch movies on their phone. They don't want, I'll watch a movie on my phone because I just like to watch movies.
Yeah.
having two teenagers, I'm just witnessing all of this firsthand, and they're like they don't even realize they're like my little guinea pigs when I'm asking them about like, so what are you watching right now? And they're like, oh, Dad, God, what does it matter? And like, no, I don't care what you're watching. I just want to know what you're watching, And so they don't really understand like, the play there. But I find it fascinating just how the change in our viewing habits from generation to generation, the change in technology, the change in the programming, and now with AI, we're about to see a huge shift. I mean, there is a world now that is very close in play where you can say, oh, hey, whatever you want to call your AI, hey AI, can you create a version of Raiders of the Lost Ark with Leonardo DiCaprio as Indiana Jones and Rachel McAdams as the Karen.
Right.
Oh my God, what was her name? It was
remember.
the love interest.
Yeah,
Anyway, as the love interest, right? And so and all of a sudden,
You have a whole script.
an hour. It's not just a script. An hour later, you're watching the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio now in the role of Indiana Jones, and another actress in this different role, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Never thought about that. That was fun to do, right?
You have where people can, this is kind of diverging slightly from the topic, but people can generate the actual script and go and sell it.
Yeah,
That's happening too.
there is a, there's luckily there are a lot of rules around that.
Good.
And the fear from the Writers Guild and their arguments they're making when it comes to AI was essentially, we don't want to be in a world. We want to be in a world where writing and humans are writing content and telling our experience, right?
Right.
We don't want an artificial intelligent generative AI that's trying to inform us about what our experience is and these different relationships and stuff.
Right.
And while it can execute in the style of, like with ChatGPT and everything, it can execute in a style of and such, and has been successful to a certain degree in being able to tell stories. There is, it's what they're generating is not nearly capable of being like a next hit.
Right.
And because of that, they're like, oh, what they wanted was, we want to be able to like basically be a prompt jockey for ideas and scripts. So a development guy can just sit back in his office, drink his coffee, and be like, all right, so like, what if, okay, write me a story about, it's like what lies beneath, but instead it's like a comedy and, imagine like Jim Carrey from whatever. And basically be these prompt jockeys, spit stuff out, and they're like, okay, that's kind of funny. Those are kind of dumb jokes, but all right, now I'm just going to give it to a writer and say, fix it.
Go actually do the thing, make it something.
And one of the laws now is that like I think they can do that.
Okay.
But if they give it to a writer, that writer has to be paid and honored like it's their script.
Yeah.
So they can do all the prompt jockeying they want, but then they have to hire.
They're handing the idea off.
They're handing
to come to life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting.
How do you feel about that? How do people feel?
I think everyone's just sort of weary about it because it's just change, and people.
It is change.
I think anybody. It's like the hard part about change is that you don't know whether it's good or productive or disruptive in a negative way until the change has occurred, right?
It can be both, though.
Right.
It's gonna be a plus.
There will be
plus
yeah.
minus.
Yep, exactly.
But I want to know: do you know anybody who set up an AI movie production company? Because I feel like that
not yet
has to happen. It's
not yet.
Okay.
It's gonna happen.
That's Jen and I's next pitch to you.
Yeah.
You want to set up an AI movie production?
It's going to happen. I think the hard thing is like there's like sort of three boats, the kind of positions I think on this. There's those who are like, I have no relationships or attachment to the industry in any which way, shape, or form, or unions or anything. So I feel very clear and comfortable and in my personal right to say, I want to be in the movie business, and I can just do it through AI, and I'm going to go do that now, right? More power to them. And then you have those who, like myself, they're kind of sitting in a seat of like, I have a lot of relationships, I have a lot of friends, I have my own aspirations and my own goals. How is AI going to directly impact me, my project, my friends' projects? Is there a way to utilize it in a beneficial way that we can still move projects forward and help? Is there certain...
your sizzle reel could have been AI. mean, that's like the amount of time, effort, and energy potentially could have just been.
Not right now. That's the thing. It couldn't have been right now.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I
maybe
still
in
think
several years
you
it could be,
need
but
the human, like the real human experience to create this content.
I mean, if I imagine myself, let's just say I created an AI production company. I don't think there's a world where you could create a show or a movie without intimate human involvement.
Right.
Of
Right,
each scene
right.
being
Yeah.
captured. So what you're really
Humans
doing
will
is
be in the loop for sure.
so I think like each
like you can create there's certain functions that help. Like if you're trying to speed up, there's different processes you can speed up that maybe would take like a writer a longer time to
Right.
get from point A to point C, and that B is now like a much quicker process because
Right.
they're like, oh, I can just, ask for this research. So I think
And that's the right application because
it is like like we don't need recall anymore. And I think like in our education process, that's going to give a whole work over because we need thinkers and we need theorists. We need to be able to think in theory, but we don't need recall anymore because we have the data banks to recall information from.
Oh, doesn't that scare you though?
So that's interesting.
Right?
So then the AI could say, hey, we've got a gap in the story. We never closed the loop here. Is that what you're referring to? So if you have a series that's going on like Lost, which they had about 6 million open loops they never closed.
Right, yeah.
They can say, hey, these are the things we never closed the loop on, by the way.
I mean, you could ask it. I mean, essentially, it's a sort of a prompt.
Yeah.
But like just a practical, like Google just released Veo 3. Like I don't know when you're airing this. So this might be way old by then. But and they have their new technology for video creation. So it's possible for documentary work. I think there's an application where you can, for budget requirements and such, you might be able to tell more of a news clip kind of like a talk soup or news clip kind of story where you don't really need the actual person holding up the glass and drinking from milk for whatever, right? But you need a shot that's like somebody drinking from milk.
Yeah.
So because they're talking about a story about milk. So you could ask Veo 3 to create that shot for you, and it's just a visual that goes along with what you're saying.
So instead of going to
it's
Shutterstock,
it's not right.
You go
right.
to okay.
So it's basically it's a way for you to create those kind of images. Now, when you get into like full story, I think that's where there's still going to be. I mean, you're not just going to go in your everyday AI for a full story. That's going to be a different AI system that's more robust. That's going to that's much more expensive.
Yeah.
That's going to be able to get into like emotional storytelling. But I still think we're a ways off from that. And I don't know a ways off in AI land because of deep learning is 3 weeks from now or 3 months or 3 years from now.
Right.
But eventually it'll be there. It's just, and actors, I mean, that was a big part of the SAG strike on that side was they don't want to just sign over the rights to their entire image, likeness, and emotionality to be able to be portrayed in these different movies.
Forever.
Here's the thing that I'm sure there is an actor out there who will say, well, you can do that, and it'll save me a lot of time and energy. I can go do theater, for example, if they really want to be a theatrical actor, or they want to do something, how they want to spend their time. They might, at some point in time, turn over their right to you can copy and do this, but I'm going to still get X amount of dollars, and you're going to pay me decently well. Like maybe you're not going to pay me like as if I was there on set every single day, but you're still going to pay me maybe half of that, but I don't have to do any of it.
Right.
And I can go do these other things I want to do.
I'm sure there are people who will want to do that.
Somebody will break that mold and will want to do that. So I think those kind of things will happen, and then it will. Look right now. There's AI generated personalities and chatbots and avatars on Instagram that are have thousands of followers. Now I don't know what AI system is maybe supporting that to generate the algorithms to make sure they have those followers, or if there's just a bunch of people who are like, oh, I want to follow this particular AI bot,
Yeah.
But yeah,
So last question on this, if that's okay. Last question, Jen.
For the whole show.
Actually, I like that we haven't really gotten to any kind of like dark side or anything about it. We've been able to kind of.
So what's the dark side?
Why?
Because if you give him a line, he goes, "Oh, great! I've been
Yeah.
looking for it."
You had a question, though.
Yeah.
You really did.
How are you using it? How are you incorporating it? And are you within your companies and within the work that you're doing saying, hey, let's look at AI to get those clips?
But it might not be that. I would want to know just for how are you reducing manual, tedious tasks? I'm not looking for, and I don't expect, based on everything that you've said, anything that's helping with content creation or your process. I think of it as even just how you keep yourself organized.
I think I use it more so just in research, and I really use it for recall, and I have to be careful with it because it's not always entirely accurate. So sometimes I'll give it a prompt of something that I know, just to see like how well it knows what it's talking about.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like it sort of, what I find ChatGPT right now, it's at the state where it sort of talks around a subject. So you can't really ask it to do something specifically. It'll just sort of talk around how it can possibly be done, right? So it's like sitting across from the interviewer who won't actually answer the question, right? I think that's sort of the issue that everybody sort of has about it. So I find it more applicable for asking it for recall for like facts, you know. But those facts can be wrong. Like, my wife and I were talking about I was talking about growing up in Neptune Beach, and we were talking about going to the. We were talking about Neptune Beach. Sorry, and we were having an argument, like a mild argument of like what the parameters of Neptune Beach were. And I said, "Oh, it's from Atlantic Boulevard." I was like, "Man, I'm pretty sure. I grew up in Neptune Beach. I'm pretty sure like the line is a sea gate between dividing the senior high and the middle school for Fletcher." And I was like, I don't know. I was like, ask ChatGPT. I was like, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So she was like, okay, ChatGPT, what are the north and south, borders of Neptune Beach? ChatGPT said it was Atlantic Boulevard and Florida Boulevard, which is north of Seagate.
Oh.
And then I was like, no. I grew up in Neptune Beach. That's wrong. That's definitely wrong. That's got to be wrong. So then I got out, looked at maps, and found that I was right. It's Seagate to Florida, and ChatGPT was wrong. So
I've noticed maps not very good with locations and mapping. Also, Scrabble words.
Scrabble words, it's bad with.
It's so bad.
Oh, interesting.
So
wait,
bad.
are you cheating
I
on
was just
Scrabble
gonna say,
right now?
wait a
Like
minute,
we
how
just
do you
opened up a
know?
whole other kind of thing here.
Why would you assume cheating?
Why are you
looking up Scrabble words on ChatGPT?
Maybe I'm testing ChatGPT's capabilities.
Okay.
But yeah,
we'll lead with that. But yeah, I think just recall in general is like the best application. But at the same time, you really have to know a little bit about what you're talking about to know that it's actually accurate information, because it's sort of being sourced from everything that's out there and giving you the most likelihood.
Could be garbage, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that kind of gets into like the dead internet theory, right? Like if there's enough misinformation or incorrect information out there, then at what point in time is it just bots and misinformation or incorrect information, and it's just dead, and we have to move on to something else and just let that go.
Right.
Really.
And then we are in that dystopian world that we've dreamt of.
Yeah, we're there. We have a few more minutes, and I want to talk about The Man in the White Van.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah.
I saw it last night.
Okay.
I loved it.
Oh.
I'm not just like I want to say I was gonna say I was on the edge of my seat, but I actually stood up to watch it. It was really good.
Do you just stand when you watch movies?
No, I was on the edge. I was on the edge of my seat to the point where I had to stand up.
I'm imagining him actually like talking back at the screen now at some point.
I think I did.
Probably. That seems like a
And what I deeply appreciated about it, Warren, was the cinematography. That
is near and dear to my heart. I love
so good. The costume design, the way every shot felt so balanced. Like, it was so good. So good.
I will say a thank you on behalf of the cinematographer, Gareth Cox, the production designer, Lauren Spalding, and the costume designer, Tiger Curran, because I felt like they knocked it out of the park. And they were the three, outside of my editor, they were the three collaborators that I wanted to really have a say in to start with, because I felt like to get the right look and vibe and feel of the film, I just wanted to really... I wanted to bring the audience in and felt like they were just swimming around in, that late 1970s, 1980 era.
I felt it. it felt
That's
it felt it was
awesome.
so good, and the suspense.
I can't wait.
Wow.
These are my weekend plans.
I mean, it was nonstop suspense, and
this
so
is going to be hard
can
for
I?
me.
What, can you give your 30-second what it is? Because I want to
Yeah.
know what I can share or not share.
No, I mean, I
Okay.
think sharing.
No
So I
spoiler
mean, it's
alert.
Like, it's been released, it's out,
It's
like,
based on
you
a
know,
well. Okay, Jen hasn't seen it, so I'll spare you. But it's based on a true story of a serial killer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when
Yeah.
the way I would position it
Okay.
is that it's based on a true story of a young girl who is stalked, followed, and eventually captured by a man she does not know is a serial killer and wasn't identified later as being a serial killer, and escapes and survives her experience with a serial killer.
Literally every woman's worst
It's
nightmare.
a I think of it as I looked at it as a story of survival and
Yeah.
inspirational in that regard, that she was able to walk away from that experience when unfortunately there were several others that
Right.
did not.
And that's why, a little bit about me, I don't love to be scared. I think for me, I can actually do the blood, the guts, and the gore. I
Oh.
laugh at those things. That's not scary to me.
Psst.
It's the real life.
This is
You're
real
telling me a true story. And if it ends horribly, typically I can't watch that because it instills like this natural fear and I'm looking over my shoulder.
Jen, maybe you shouldn't watch this.
No, but there's not a terrible end.
And this story has
There's hope. And
There's hope,
like,
yes,
there
there is
is
hope.
inspiration at the end, like, because it doesn't all end terribly.
The beauty of what Warren made is that there is no blood and gore.
yeah.
I
It
know.
is deeply suspenseful. So your imagination
And I
is
appreciate that.
doing all the work on
To
on
me,
those
that is
scenes.
such
Yeah.
talent.
Well, that's the theater of the mind to me is really like if you can get into somebody's psyche and
Yeah.
if you can not show them something, but it's far more scary for them to try to think and fathom what
Yep.
that actually
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
than actually showing them something. There's a place for that. I mean, there's very successful gory horror slasher movies,
Right.
and some some of them are my favorite.
Yeah.
But for my taste as a filmmaker, I just like the theater of the mind is sort of kind of where that's like my strong suit. It's kind of where it's at, I think.
Yeah, I think that absolutely draws me to movies, and I find myself watching those types of things. I think from a child, I've been drawn to it because of this internal fear that I've always had. And I don't know if all kids, I'm going to put this out there to you guys, I don't know if all kids have this internal fear, but I would always walk into a dark room. Immediately, you're always looking for the light switch very, very quickly. But I could not walk into a room with my mouth open. I would make sure that my jaw was
Really?
closed enough, but my teeth weren't clenched because, God forbid, if there was somebody waiting in that room for me and they were to grab me and put their hand around my mouth, that my jaw was just open enough that I would be able to quickly bite them. But I didn't want my mouth to be open in case they were going to try to like shove a chloroformed rag in there.
No, that's
I was
completely
a
common, Jen.
child. Too weird?
Yeah, no, that's every kid. Every kid is
there a
doing.
doctor on
Yeah.
campus, a therapist. That
But I
can bring-
appreciate the planning. This says a lot about your.
yeah,
Wow.
it's me, right?
process.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
a
sorry.
lot to unpack there.
Is that still today? Do you still do that today?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm with you on the lights.
Well, I don't want to stub my toes.
I'm about like checking under the bed, but that's a poltergeist reference.
At 100%.
right?
Absolutely.
Have you guys heard the theory of the haunted house and why it even exists?
No.
Mm.
It's what is it? They were burning fire. It's the gas, the methane. It's not the methane. It's the natural gas, whatever the result of that is, was filling up homes.
Yeah, I think it's methane, right?
Is
Yeah,
it methane?
it's
Okay, so
methane,
then,
yeah.
and that
yeah.
causes you to hallucinate and to see things and to hear things that aren't actually there. So it's the advent of that, of using that within the home with no adequate ventilation.
Huh.
Wait, hold on. This is a theory of the beginnings of a
chat
haunted
GPT?
house.
Yeah.
So how do you explain it? Like
I
the
don't.
stories of haunted
I
homes?
don't have
and
to.
Before,
Do you?
I guess methane gas. So this isn't actual like
Where's the methane coming from?
You're
I guess the ground, like an area where there was
Okay.
methane. That's
no,
what
no,
I'm
no, no.
assuming,
So when you're lighting lanterns in your house before electricity,
Mhm.
however, whatever you're using, the off
Okay.
gas of that, there is no proper ventilation. So you're breathing in whatever
It's
the
very technical terms. The off gas.
off. I think that is.
Off
It's like,
gas?
I think it's
Is it
what
actually?
refers to foam mattresses. Really, you want to let it off gas.
Off gas. There's combustion and off gas.
Anyway,
Okay,
guys,
so that's a theory.
that's a theory.
So,
And so the idea is like it just caused hallucinations and
Right.
so there's no such thing as spirits?
how do you explain
Jesus, what is going on here?
You opened yourself
how do you
up.
explain, the missing this or that in the house for a haunted house or
Things being moved.
moved around?
I don't have to explain
Strange
anything. I'm
noises.
just letting you guys
Is
know.
the gas making the strange noise or is it the
Look, if you go to Reddit,
Oh Lord.
there was a story
Okay.
of a guy who thought his landlord was messing with him, sneaking in, moving things around, like closing windows that were open, the whole nine. And the comments were, hey, check to see if you have a gas leak in your house.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
He checked to see if he had a gas leak in his house,
Uh-huh.
and he did.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
Well, I don't really believe in coincidences, so that seems interesting.
I feel like I shut this conversation down.
A little bit.
Are you guys
No,
on
we're
this?
thinking about. We're thinking.
Yeah.
We're step,
Yeah.
right? You're cutting this together, right? Someone will edit it.
All right. So, should wrap. Anything else, Warren, that you want to add or say? Where can people access and see and watch The Man in the White Band? And the way you made that,
watch it on.
and did you leave it open for a part 2?
We left it open for part 2, but I'm actually working on a docuseries about the Mansfield family now.
All
And
right.
because that's sort of, I met with the cold case detectives. I tried to meet with them throughout the whole filming process, and they were just busy doing things, doing, work.
Solving crime.
crimes. And then we were in post-production. I got a call, and he was like, hey, do you want to come down to Brooksville and meet? I was like, I guess, sure. Yeah, kind of done with the movie, but yes. And we sat down with 2 of them at an IHOP in Brooksville, and what I thought was going to be like a 30-minute conversation, we sat for 3 hours, and the information they kind of unpacked with me there that I can't really get into really opened a door that I knew I would not be able to close.
Mhm.
So I've just been on a path now to document, tell the other side of the story. Like the narrative scripted film was about one particular victim who survived and escaped.
Mhm.
And so it was a little, Hollywood, if you will.
Yeah.
Entertainment purposes, a suspense thriller. But now I just found there's a more profound story in not forgetting the victims of the killer and also who the proverbial killer was. And was
Do we not
he
know?
acting alone or with
Mm.
other family members?
Oh, okay. That explains that scene in the movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like a little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm fangirling a little bit right now.
Aw,
This is the other reason why I couldn't watch the movie ahead of time. You're a big deal. And I feel like,
What?
yes, I absolutely. When he told me that he knew a film director, I was like, why have you waited? How many years have we worked together to tell me this? So I
It's because he
couldn't-
refused to work with me.
Oh my God. We have so many, Jacksonville has so much talent, especially in the film side.
Yeah.
And we've got this sort of amateur, now professional film community to start, kind of burgeoning, I think, because of like what, like Adam Madrid and what he's doing with the 48-hour film festival and the
yeah.
Laugh Out Loud Film Festival. And sort of, I feel like it just sort of built a film culture. And
Yeah.
he and Monique have done a great job with that. And I just noticed because I feel like I've been out of Jacksonville and working and doing and being in other areas of the world, Sarasota. And then when I was here, I wasn't like in the film community because
Yeah,
I was like trying to
right.
visit family and everything. So
Right.
I feel like I've come back now, and for the first time, I've been able to kind of see what's happening here, and it's really exciting. And a lot of people don't even know like who is from Jacksonville, and the great things they're doing because they've had to go pursue those careers, but they're from here. You know, like Sam Wolfson, who was a writer for the Netflix hits Tall Girl and Tall Girl 2, and Kat Candler, who filmed Hellion, you know, was at Sundance, and she's been a showrunner for Queen Sugar, and is currently doing a limited series about the Murdaugh.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very cool stuff. She's incredibly talented. And, you know, Lawrence Gustavo Cooper, who was just did a film for Paramount Plus called Crawl Space that he shot in Vancouver. Franklin Rich, who I think has even taught here at UNF a little bit, his film The Artifice Girl that was picked up by XYZ and distributed. And so there's just like how could I forget Russell Hainline and his you wouldn't know him by his name, but you might know him from his Netflix hit Hot Frosty. No?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
It was like, okay.
Wait.
Man, I thought surely I was like bringing you a home run there, and you're like, oh my God, he did Hot Frosty.
But now I need to know what's missing.
So he has Russell Stanton grad. He is really, really talented writer, and he found his niche writing like holiday films for like Lifetime, Hallmark kind of films. And then he pitched this idea to Netflix that was sort of like, I don't know, whatever.
I do know.
He pitched this idea.
Yes, okay.
Called Hot Frosty.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's the title of it, and it became this like huge hit on Netflix to the point that they were making jokes about it on SNL.
Good for him.
Yeah, I mean, he hit like
can get picked on,
right. So he kind of hit the zeitgeist with that. So there's just
and there's Jen and Arash with the C-List podcast.
Absolutely. You guys are killing it here.
Big deal. Big deal.
Like when you asked me to come do the podcast, I had
to catch your breath.
I had to get here early. I had to get my bearings. I went through this whole thing of trying to figure out how can I meet Jen before the podcast. So I carefully waited on the stairwell till she came over to the soda machine.
Sweaty. Right.
And then I walked down, and then I asked her, I was like, I got to ask her something. I know it. Like, hey, I was like, I'm sorry, do you know where building 4 is? And she said, oh, yeah, this is the building 4. And then she's like, wait, are you Warren? I was like, oh, yeah, I am. She's like, do you want something to drink here from the soda machine? I was like, no. But anyway, but it led to like a really lovely conversation that we had all the way up here. And we got to, so I just knew that I had to get into a zone, and I knew I could only do that if I could meet Jen in advance.
You could stage isn't it called a meet cute?
A meet cute, if you will.
I've never heard that term.
Really?
Yeah, we don't have to get into it though.
Oh.
Warren.
We'll sidestep the things that Arash doesn't know.
Thanks, Warren.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. This is great.
Is it? Did we get into anything interesting?
I was entertained the entire time.
Yeah, I think that's a problem with talking with you. Every story, I was
engrossed.
Okay.
You're a good storyteller.
I feel like
you are a really natural storyteller.
I feel like I am just talking sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, are they still listening?
But you always have a point and a purpose.
I'll get there. I'll try and get there.
I'm sure your kids are like, okay, Dad.
Wrap it up.
By the way, my kids are the only way I've continued my acting career, because I've had to, like, that's where I let it all out, was with them when they were younger. So I got to kind of,
I got
do that, the whole thing, and be that fun dad, There was one last thing I did want to say, and it just had to do with, like, because you had asked, I think before we got on, like, what, you were in LA and in New York, and how'd you end up here, right? Because we never really got into that. We skipped ahead. You were like, all right,
we did.
We're gonna cut Warren off because he's gonna talk, so we'll skip ahead. But I made the film and I was in LA. I knew nothing about marketing distribution after that first film, so I moved to New York. And I had a lot of filmmaker friends who were like, you should come to New York, be a part of our world. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to try on my New York clothes. My grandparents were from the Bronx. Like, I'm going to be a New Yorker now, right? Yeah. So I got to New York. I lived there for a year. I got into one winter, and
I knew I was going to, is this too cold?
I was walking along the street up near Hunter College on 66th, and I didn't know if my face was wet because of the rain or tears. And I was like, this is such a weird existence. I think I'm crying on a New York street, and I don't even know why, right? So I realized I'm a Florida boy. So LA, Florida, like, for the long term was good. I love visiting New York. But I moved back to Jacksonville, and I partnered up with Brenda Eggity Cole with Tiger Lily at the time. and we both had been kind of elsewhere and came back, and I just loved being a part of. I could go contribute in LA and New York and just kind of be a part of their arts culture. But what I really loved about coming back to Jacksonville at the time and being a part of it throughout is being a part of an ascending arts culture. And I felt like there was something to be done here. And I felt like there was something special sort of in the works. And I feel like that we've had a really strong art space for a long time, especially in music and in the visual arts. And I think the filmmaking side of things is now actually really starting to take shape.
That's so exciting. And that's what most of I think all of our podcast guests that we have had, they're here in Jacksonville because of the belief that there is something very special and unique about Jacksonville, the people that it attracts. And we have so much innovation. And I love to see how the depth and breadth of all of the different types of things that we have. It's not just technology. Now we have, we've got the film, we have arts. I love this city.
I did too.
It's a great place to end, guys.
Duval.
Doing Duval.
See, now you're going to make the show.
All right.
Thanks, Warren.
Yeah.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks, Arash.
My IT geeky self, you always try to relate to people. And what was fascinating, I'm going into this going, I am such a huge fan of film and TV, and I look up to the people who can bring this to life.
Yeah.
And then I'm listening to him talk about the process, going and getting the money, having the ideas, getting a go-to-market strategy together. And I was like, his life is not completely dissimilar to what we go through from a business corporate standpoint.
Right.
When you think about, you've got to pitch solutions for what we do specifically at NLP Logics. We've got to hear problems. We've got to craft solutions. Our clients are usually finding the money to make these solutions come to life, but the success doesn't happen if they don't have a really good go-to-market strategy. Now, that go-to-market strategy may not be go to the public market, even just thinking the change management and the adoption strategy of AI within their business. So I can liken what he has been through to what we go through with our clients. So I had that brief little IT nerd thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's everything in the beginning and everything in the end that people forget.
Yeah.
That requires all the behind the scenes.
Right.
Because they just want to do the thing, and the thing matters. If the thing is not good,
but
it doesn't
just
matter.
Creating the thing, it's like the if you build it, they will come mentality.
But what's crazy is that if you do create a bad thing and your back end processes and all are good, that bad thing can be successful.
A real thing.
To everyone's chagrin. But yes, here's what I loved about Warren.
Yeah.
And I think I said this to him. I don't know if he does it on purpose, but his ability to tell the story and keep me following along the entire, I cannot wait.
Totally.
I could just listen to him talk and tell stories all day long.
All day long.
All day long.
Yeah, I could have sat here for 3 hours. This is when I challenged you on the how long should our podcast episodes be? And you said, maybe it was Ashish who had said, it could be 3 hours. People will listen. I was like, no way. Now I get it. Because if you get into a really good conversation, you have somebody capable of making you feel drawn in and you want to know what is that next thing. He leaves you always a little bit on the edge of your seat. Fascinating.
That was great.
I loved him.
All right. Thanks,
All right,
Jen.
until next time.
I think we've lost count about how many podcasts
This was 6
This is
because I
6?
remember listening to us high-fiving.
Oh, by the way,
last time.
I'm going to start saying we have the #1 podcast in the world. The #1, should we say #1 business podcast or just #1 podcast?
No, a podcast.
#1 podcast in the world. We got it.
High five.